welcome back to the England or Model Railway. In this video, I'll be reviewing this Hornby A1X Terrier. My brother purchased this locomotive for me last year as part of my birthday present. He purchased this model was at Lord and Butler for a price of £40. Just a little bit of a heads up, the Hornby Terriers have a bit of a reputation for burning out their motors. And sadly, within the first couple of weeks of me owning this locomotive, the motor did need burnt out and needed replacing. But since then, it has been running alright. But for anyone who also has a Hornby Terrier, Peter Spares has now made it a upgraded motor for the model. And Peter Spares with the upgraded motors is quite excellent in their motors. But for now, I'll keep with the motor in my Hornby Terrier as of now, because it runs not too bad actually. Now, with that said and done, it's time to take this model out of the box and take it to the turntable so we can see the details this locomotive has to offer. Here we are, the Hornby A1X Terrier, and it is a truly splendid locomotive in its presentation. This one is known as Southern and is part of the preserved terriers. This one is in real life. Southern is awaiting finishing of its restoration, so hopefully it'll be back on the rail soon enough. Back to this beautiful little model, and the details are just mind-blowing. The lining is beautifully applied. Everything on this locomotive is exact as it should be for a terrier. The only downside is that this locomotive does not have sprung buffers, but for the price that my brother has paid for this model, I could easily overlook that. But now let's get a little bit closer so we can see everything in more finer detail. Here we are, more closer with the camera, and you could see the amazing way the lining, the nameplate Southern have been applied beautifully. The Westinghouse pump, the nameplate, the works plate, the lining, it's all crisp and smooth, as you would expect for a locomotive which is a lot more expensive than what my brother has paid for this one. But even for a price, I believe this would be around about £110 or £120, it is still an excellent bargain. The running board is square, beautiful, and with the red lining on it beautifully applied. We go over to the top of the logo where you see all the various details. The whistle, it may be plastic, but it's beautifully applied. The splasher, the lining on the boiler, the cab. Here's a common bit of fact I've learnt from Chris Eden Green. As part of its review, I watched his Steam Locos and profile on the Terrier, which I would heavily recommend anyone who is interested in the Terrier should watch. That the cab is actually quite cramped in real life, and not enough room, barely enough room for the fireman and the driver. But apparently these locomotives were built for originally for just having the driver by himself, which is an amazing bit of knowledge I would not have expected. Now we go over to the front of the locomotive. Where it has the number on the buffer beam, the brake pipe, the smoke box is beautifully applied, done. The details are excellent. We go over to the other side where it's just basically an amazing locomotive. Details are plenty. Go over to the rear end of the locomotive and the cab lining, the windows, the brake pump. It's just a marvelous little locomotive. And there are many liveries for these little tank engines out there. So not many terriers are the same. If I wasn't had a one loco of one class of each class in my collection, I would be happy to have many terriers going around in many liveries. It just would be an enjoyable sight. Now we'll go on to tell the story of the A1 Terriers, plus as well as the A1X Terriers. The LB and SCR A1 class was designed by William Stroudley, built between 1872 and 1880, with a total of 50 locomotives built. The class were nicknamed Terriers due to their unique exhaust note, but also gained other names such as Rooters and Hailing Billies. Originally working on passenger services out of London Bridge and Victoria Station, they moved to shunting and shorter passenger services after being replaced by larger locomotives. 17 of these were rebuilt to A1X's class between 1911 and 1913, which involved reboiling the locomotive as well as extending the smoke boxes, moving the placement of the sandboxes, and other changes. As the years went on, they became famous in many places such as the Bluebell, Western Supermare, and many other places. One became famous thanks to the Wilbur Audrey, known as Stepney, which you can see at the Bluebell Railway. Sadly, Stepney is now a stationary built locomotive, but still is happy to greet visitors who come to visit him. The Terriers continued on in service until 1963, where withdrawals began. As of now, only 10 Terriers remain in preservation. At the time of the Terrier's introduction to service, one was sent up to France to show off how excellent it was and performed up to speeds unheard of at the time of 50 miles an hour, where its designer William Stroudley was given a medal for his design of the locomotive. With that now done, we'll go down to the track and see how much of an excellent little locomotive the Hornby A1X Terriers can be. Here we are at the track with the Hornby A1X Terrier. For this running session, I thought it would be perfect to have it run with these Southern Green coaches. The theme for this running session is 060 tank engines. So we have the Batman 64XX with some great Western coaches. As well as that, we have the Hornby Packet with some blood and custards. This should be a very enjoyable and pleasant running session. Now it's time to let these locomotives show us what they are made of. Well, that was a pleasant, peaceful running session indeed. The Hornby Terrier A1X is a beautiful running model. The details are excellent and well applied to the model. For those who are worried for the problems that the Hornby Terriers are known for burning out their motors, I can reassure you and say that if you wish to upgrade your terriers, there is a Peter Spares upgraded motor available. I would recommend Peter Spares upgraded motors because I have two models in my collection which has the upgrade, and it is worthwhile in the long run. But for now, I'm going to keep my Terrier with its net new motor it has now. But it is worth buying it either way. It is an excellent locomotive. That concludes my review of the Hornby Terrier A1X. If you enjoyed the video, please share, like, and subscribe to the Lone Ranger Motoring channel. If you have any ideas for future videos for the channel, please put something in the comments because we always are reading the comments and answering them. For now, see you next time.